Armchair commanders, we call the shots. From our living room thrones where the action's hot. We're the generals of fiction, the masters of war. In silver screen battles with buttered popcorn. Armchair commanders, armchair commanders.
Alrighty, welcome to the Armchair Commanders podcast. My name is John, and this week Jack is unavailable because he's too cool to hang out with me. But I have a wonderful guest to fill in. Puman, if you want to say hello and tell the folks a little bit about yourself.
Oh, greetings everyone. My name is, I go online by Puman. My real name is Andy or Andrew. But I'm gonna be probably called Puman for the podcast. And I'm gonna just tell something about me. So I'm from the Czech Republic in Europe, and I'm right now studying in school. I'm 17 years old. So first of all, I'm working on like coding stuff and currently on a game called Duckoleon. So we're gonna maybe talk a bit about that later. And also I run a hard rock / metal band here in my city, and Napoleonic Wars is like my main interest. But I'm like not too on it. I'm not like some professional, I just do it for fun. So yeah.
Something tells me you probably know more about Napoleon than I do, because the American education system severely
that's true.
lacks in that subject matter, so...
Yeah, probably it's gonna be the case, but yeah, like I said, only familiar like with the biggest battles, some of the uniforms, and just the stuff that interests me, which is basically the uniforms and combat stuff. So I might tell you something about that, but don't take my word on anything.
Oh, that's fair. We don't pretend to be experts around here.
Okay, that's good.
So, obviously, we got in touch because YouTube did what YouTube does, which is, recommends, videos to you based on things you may or may not like. And apparently, YouTube thinks I really enjoy Napoleon and ducks, which is where you come in.
Yeah.
So... Where did your idea to come up with a Napoleon Warfare game with ducks as the characters come from?
Well, it's quite a long story. When I was young, I always wanted to raise some ducks, I don't know why, but it just came to me. So I was just interested in ducks from my, like, maybe 10 years old. And also I was interested in Napoleon. So, once I realized that I can't have ducks myself because my mom didn't want to allow it. Or, I mean, I have 2 ducks right now, but they're just kind of hanging around. It's just not, I wouldn't call it like, what is it called in English?
Like a pet or?
Yeah, they're basically pets, But, I realized that I can't have like many ducks and stuff like that, and I was also interested in making games, so I just wanted to make some duck game, and it came to my mind that I could combine it together. The main reason I decided to go with the ducks for the Napoleonic team is because I really suck at 3D modeling, and I didn't want to model a human, so I went with the ducks because they're super easy to model and animate. And
that's fair. Probably... but that's the thing though, is like, it's definitely attention grabbing, because I was like, ducks but with muskets, and so I mean the gameplay trailer that's out right now it's definitely doing its job. It makes the game look really fun.
Yeah, I must say if I could like glaze myself a little, it's a pretty good idea, because there aren't much other games like this, not many Napoleonic games as well, only like a few major ones. So I wanted to boost up the genre a bit, and also it kind of hooks you the graphics and stuff like that. So I hope that the game is gonna be at least a little successful. Doing my best, yeah.
So, from what it seemed like, you're still working on it and developing the game, right? Like it's still in kind of like a test phase.
Well, on the schedule we're on right now, I think we could be able to release the game maybe next month. We only have to do like one more map and add Russia to it, and one more smaller country. But other than that, it's kind of ready, so hopefully we can release it next month. There's gonna be also a new trailer dropping.
All right, so hopefully before the end of the year, the game will be out to play.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure before the end of the year, yeah.
All right.
If there aren't any major delays, which sometimes happens, you know, because you just find a game-breaking bug that takes like 2 months to fix.
Right.
Hopefully that won't be the case.
How many people you got work on it, or is it just you?
Well, it started just as a solo project for me, and now I'm still the only one like working on the actual game code and doing models for the game, but I got some people for community management, graphics, video editing, sound design, music, all amazing people. So I'm hoping to expand my team a little more in the future if the game actually blows up, but I'm kind of broke right now, so I'm kind of on my own until I release it.
I can't imagine that, like, as a 17-year-old, like, just going out and being like, I'm going to create a video game was, like, the easiest venture to go out on.
Well, yeah, I mean, everyone in my age wanted to make a game, or I think so. Like 90% of people around me wanted to make a game. And it kind of hooks you that you want to go for it and you're all excited, but it's kind of hard to make it actually last. Because the entry bar is kind of high for it compared to other stuff. That you actually have to learn so much stuff before you can make anything even playable.
Right.
Because if I can just... I started at, I think, 12 or 13 years old. I started coding, so it took a long time to get here to make a multiplayer game.
So, kind of switching tangents a little bit onto the topic of today's movie. Sorry that the movie you wanted to do was already taken, because you mentioned that you were a big fan of the movie Waterloo.
Yeah, that's like my most favorite Napoleonic thing ever. I watched it like 5 times already, but no worries. We can talk about this one as well, because I like to hate on stuff, so this is gonna be a good one.
So, today's movie is Napoleon by Ridley Scott. Came out a couple of years ago, and it stars Joaquin Phoenix. Did you see this when it first came out, or when was the first time you saw this film?
I was in the theater for this one, and it was kind of an unpleasant experience, I might say. I was there with my history teacher, like not with her, but she was there as well. So the next day in class, the whole 45 minutes of the history class was just discussing the movie, and my teacher was also hating on it so bad. So that's kind of funny.
That's kind of interesting because, like, here in America, like it's at least over here, the rights to it is owned by Apple. So like the only place you can watch it in America is on Apple TV.
Really?
Um,
That's weird.
so when it first came out here, like it came out in theaters, but it was very, I don't want to say it was lackluster, but there wasn't a ton of advertising around it. Like there's still some previews and whatnot, but it wasn't really pushed as much, especially seeing as like, you know, Ridley Scott has come up with films like, you know, Gladiator and
Alien, yeah.
yeah, like major blockbusters. He's a very popular director here.
Mm-hmm.
And it just from my own like looking at it, it didn't seem like it got pushed very hard over here. And it was one of those where it's like me being a guy who loves war movies and like I have my degree in history and stuff, I was like, oh, I should see that. And then I just kind of like went on with my day and never thought about it again. Versus like what, like you mentioned, like spending like 45 minutes in school talking about the movie. Like, was it a big deal in Europe when this movie came up?
I wouldn't say it was a major deal. Some people heard about it, but from my experience when I was in the theater for the premiere, there were around like maybe 15 people there, so also not too big. It was only like picked up by the people actually interested in history, which is the people that the movie wasn't actually made for, because it's really inaccurate and it probably just pissed everyone off. And like
Well,
the
it
yeah,
definitely gives like blockbuster vibes.
mm-hmm, definitely. Well, it's kind of weird to me that it wasn't pushed in the USA as much, because from what you were saying, not many people know that much about this period in the US. So I thought it's gonna be pushed there a lot more for the like actual target audience of people who don't know much about history and just wanna watch a action movie. To like how do I say it? Well, you get it.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, like, they put quite a bit of money into it because, you know, it's
Mm-hmm.
directed by Ridley Scott, and like having Joaquin Phoenix, especially at this point in his career where, you know, he's already done films like Gladiator and he did Joker, and like Joaquin Phoenix is not a cheap actor to get, but looking here, it barely broke even. The
Mm-hmm.
budget for this film was $200 million, and the box office it made 221 million. So it wasn't a failure, but it definitely did not live up to what it should have.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. But if I may just go back for a second, I think it maybe did a little better around here, because I live like maybe 5 kilometers away from the Austerlitz battlefield, and the actor that did Napoleon in the film, you just said the name I think, but I'm not quite on this team of actors and stuff like that. So if you just may correct me on the name of him, the Napoleon actor. Uh,
Joaquin Phoenix.
yeah. Um, well, I think he did Napoleon on the reenactment, and also on some other one, I think, in my area. And there was a lot of fuss around it. A lot of people were talking about him being there. But it may be just because of him being famous, not because of the movie, but I'm not sure.
So wait, Joaquin Phoenix participated in a reenactment
I think so.
at Austerlitz.
I think I read it somewhere in the newspaper or somewhere, but you might have to confirm that. But I'm like 90% sure I read it somewhere that he was actually playing Napoleon in the reenactment.
That would be hilarious if it was. Google's kind of failing me because I typed in Joaquin Phoenix Austerlitz reenactment, and it's just giving me clips from the movie. But um,
Well, hopefully
so
it's actually true. I don't want to sound like a dumbass, but I really feel like I read it somewhere.
so having only, you know, living a short distance away from the battlefield, what did you think of the Austerlitz battle scene?
Well, just this is a point I wrote down. I think that uh, it doesn't look like the actual battlefield at all, because there are super like big hills in the movie, which is not around here at all, and the whole scene was super bad. I had no idea that the film is gonna go in this direction. I was expecting it to be at least a little accurate, but on that Austerlitz scene, I actually lost it in the cinema, because there was just like this big camp of the French inside like a little valley or something, and they had like trenches and stuff like that, and I was like, what? And they were all camped in the trenches, and then the whole Austro-Russian army just approached them, and instead of doing line combat or anything like that, they just all charged on themselves and just did like a big beat up sequence of like 5 minutes. Maybe like 3 shots were fired in that whole scene.
Just going straight for the charge.
Yeah, it's so weird.
I thought like And granted, like I said, I really like I know the name of some of the big battles, and like I know a very surface level amount about Napoleon. So like when I see the Austerlitz scene, like the scene like Austerlitz, I'm like, because I know really I don't know anything about the battle or what it looks like in that area. Like to me, it's just like, oh, this is an awesome battle scene. Like this is pretty cool. Especially I was like, and the whole film was like this, but it was like super. It hit really hard, especially like when the cannons fire onto like the frozen lake
Yeah, that's true.
and the soldiers start drowning, and I'm like, this is intense. And like there's a ton like this film is very graphic in that way in a lot of different spots. So like just as someone who doesn't know any better, I was like,
Yeah,
oh, this is a awesome scene. But like it's interesting to me, because I've definitely had that experience with other films where like, like a big one for like us in America is like Pearl Harbor is like one
mm-hmm.
that will make me want to
That's a good
put my
one.
head through a wall.
Well, that kind of illustrates the point because when I watched Pearl Harbor, I was like, "Oh my god, this is so cool!" And you are here telling the same thing I said about Austerlitz. So it's probably more about how much you know about the actual event. Since if I was watching the film without any knowledge on the Napoleonic Wars, I would have probably enjoyed it a lot, except some scenes maybe.
Well,
But
it's
yeah,
one of
it's
those
kind of ruins the
things.
movie for me. Yeah.
It's one of those things that, I heard a lot of complaints about the film. And I was like, okay, are these legitimate complaints or are people just being nitpicky? And, I know some people that they're like, they, they've never even seen it. They're like, I refuse. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they've read too much negative things about it that they're like, I'm not going to bother wasting my time with it. And I'm like, that, I don't know. I think every film's worth a single watch at least.
Yeah.
And I, I think that's I think that's where this film is interesting because like if we were to look at this film just as a piece of fiction, just as like a story, not as a piece of historical work, I think it's a good movie.
Yeah, I would
Like
agree.
it's shot well. I think
Mm-hmm.
like the different color palettes they use for different scenes is amazing. I love the battles and how like the battles in this movie are super graphic but not
Too much.
gratuitous
Yeah.
or overdone, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think my biggest beef with this movie, just from like a movie aspect, is that Joaquin Phoenix as Napoleon kind of didn't seem to put a lot of energy into it. Like he seemed very flat throughout the film.
Yeah. I think his portrayal kind of pissed me off, especially on the start, because Napoleon was like a really young guy when the revolution started, and he's already like looking in his 40s, and he's all the time he's just kind of melancholic instead of just showing any kind of emotion. That was kind of weird on the film. Sometimes it actually worked for some scenes, of course, but I feel like there should have been some scenes where he was actually expressing something other than just poker face or being mad.
Well, it's like you know, I think the one time he really shows like a good amount of emotion is when Napoleon is returning from Egypt. Um,
Yeah.
and he pops in his carriage and he's literally looking at a newspaper that's like, haha, your wife's cheating on you.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets back home and he loses his shit on her about this because, like, obviously, like, who wants to find out that their wife is or girlfriend is cheating on them via newspaper? Um, it's kind of like that one CEO dude a couple of months ago that became
Yeah.
an internet meme.
The Coldplay one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That was a really good scene, I
but
must say.
so like the argument that he has with her following that incident, like that was I thought like the most emotion he probably shows in this entire film.
Yeah, that entire sequence was really good, especially the argument, as you said. Uh, well, I'm not sure what to say about it, but yeah, probably the one of the best scenes in the movie. Also, I kind of enjoyed the coronation one, him becoming emperor. That's a really good shot, and that should be probably my favorite scene from the movie. Him picking up the crown and putting it in his head. Yeah,
I did like, and granted, like that is, at least as I recall it, historically accurate that
yeah,
he crowned himself basically
yeah.
because he invited the Pope, but was like, he's like, I don't want my crown to be derived
Hmm.
from the church, basically. I was
Yeah, that
expecting
should
that
be
scene to
historically
be a
accurate.
bit longer. Um,
Yeah, same.
Especially like if you think about, I think there would have been a lot to work with that scene
Hmm.
also, especially like a lead up to it and whatnot. Just because if you think about, I don't know about like the rest of Europe, but like America goes crazy over following the British royals. So like when God, what was his name? When Prince Harry got married, or when the Queen died, and then there's the new coronation. Like over here in America, like people just ate that stuff up. So like
Hmm.
that
Same
seemed
here.
like that would have been a very popular or like a good scene to extend out, but it
Yeah.
seemed kind of just short or plugged in.
Well, that's probably my biggest issue with the movie, and I think it also causes a lot of other issues, especially with the battles and stuff like that. I think it's maybe all because of the fact that the movie is just too tightly packed together, that they wanted to fit his entire life into what is it, like 2.5 hours? I think it's long,
Yeah,
and
it
they
was
wanted
about
to fit
two and a
his
half.
entire yeah, they wanted to fit his entire life into this time frame, which seems really weird to me because, for example, with the Waterloo movie from 1970, sorry, uh, it was also around that time, and it only featured one battle, and it was super thought out and had a good pace and everything. And I feel like that's the biggest mistake of the film, that they just wanted to fit almost 20 years into 2.5 hours of screen time.
What do you think would have possibly made that better? Because, as a biopic, there's lots of films that will do that. Like, especially like, there's a whole genre of biopics about musicians that, cover an entire lifespan
Hmm.
that do it very well. So, what do you think would have made it work for Napoleon?
Well, I think there are two things that could work. First one is to just make it a series, but that doesn't work every time. But maybe like 3 parts would be good. But like I said, that doesn't work every time. So I think the best uh, to do would be to either make it a smaller time frame, maybe from 1804 to 1815 only, or just the revolution up to 1805, because that's actually the part that shined the most for me, the revolution before he became emperor. So either split it up into a series or just cover a smaller part, or just focus more on fewer scenes, that you would maybe put more time into the coronation, for example, and just cut out some other section of the film.
The trip to Egypt seemed a little unnecessary. Like, it's definitely a cool part of Napoleon's story, and like visually in the film, it looked really good. But it didn't really move the story along all that
Yeah,
much. It kind of
it
just
didn't
seemed like
fit in much.
look at our CGI budget.
Yeah. Well, it could actually be good if it had a longer time in the movie, because the whole Egypt section was like maybe 10 to 15 minutes only, and it could have been a lot longer. But like we said, there's only enough time for the whole movie, so it would probably be better to just cut it out.
One thing that kind of made me confused or kind of felt weird was the scene where they had pulled a sarcophagus out of like a pyramid, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like a solid minute or two where Napoleon is just kind of like staring at this mummy and like messing with it. And I'm just curious, is this something that actually happened, or is it just like a creative license of like we just want to show him being weird?
I'm not sure. I'm looking at it right now, but I'm pretty sure it's some famous person who he was looking up to. I actually thought it was Caesar, but that wouldn't make any sense. So I can't quite tell who it was at the spot. But it might be possible it was some leader because he looked up to Caesar and like the whole Rome period a lot. You can also see it in the coronation because he's wearing the laurel, which was kind of typical for Rome. Also the eagles on flags and stuff like that. He kind of aspired to be like Caesar. So it might be something in connection with that. That would
Okay.
also explain why he acted that way. But not sure on that. When I'm looking at it, well, Google says it's Cleopatra's, but I'm not sure if that's actually a good fact because it's from that AI overview thing. So
Something tells me that the AI probably read like a Reddit post of somebody who's just like
mhm,
hypothesizing,
probably.
but who knows?
Another site doesn't say anything about who it is.
Okay.
Scott noted that the mummy in the sarcophagus wouldn't be Tutankhamun, maybe a less important pharaoh. So it should be some
So
pharaoh then.
if they if it was one of the like the Great Pyramids, it would be Khufu or Khafre, but something tells me the pyramids were raided prior to Napoleon getting there. But anyways, I just thought it was a little weird. Like I could have used Napoleon being like, "Oh, this is King so and so."
Yeah, I think it was just made to illustrate his personality a little, or something like that, or just to take up time. Maybe I don't know. It was kind of weird. Like the whole purpose of the Egypt scene was just to lead up to the to him finding out that Josephine cheated on him. That was kind of the only purpose of him being there
I think they could have
for the film.
done it differently though. Like they could have, you know, shown him getting married and then being like, "I'm leaving for Egypt," and then they could have just done like a 1 or 2 minute cut scene of her, going on her cheating escapades, and then like the next scene is him coming back on a boat versus the weird 10-15 minutes in the desert. But ultimately, it would have had the gone to the same point. But what did you think of the inclusion of the story of Josephine with Napoleon in this film? Because it's not really something that gets touched on in other Napoleon media, that at least that I've noticed.
Yeah. Well, it's not explored that much, the team between them. I actually didn't know much about it until I watched the film. It's kind of interesting as well, but I feel like it's just kind of the theme of every modern movie having some sort of like affair in it. Like most of new movies coming out just focus too much on the romance part of everything. Always like half of the movie is dedicated to it. And I think it's actually a good story, like I said, between them, but it just took up too much space in the movie. I feel like they could just either make it about them or just make it about Napoleon and his battles.
I This is one of the few times, a common complaint that I have with war films having love stories is that a lot of the time it seems forced,
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like the love story part of a war movie is shoehorned in there, or in the case of like Pearl Harbor, where it's like a major part of the storyline, it's just written very poorly. Because like if you ask Michael Bay to write a movie with explosions, he can do an excellent job. But if you ask him to write a movie with character development, then not so much. And this is one of the few times that I've watched a war movie where I'm like, the love story actually works, especially in the way that like they continuously use correspondence as a way of moving the story along.
Yeah, that
Uh,
was a good part, I would say.
I like that. Not to mention, this was not like a conventional love story. Like, it was very interesting to see these two individuals being in like a codependent slash abusive relationship with each other because they're both really shitty to each other. So it was also interesting to see it that way. But I don't know. This was a film that the love story it didn't bother me that much. Actually, I actually liked it as it was included. So for me, I don't think I would change that.
Well, for me, like I said, the love story is actually really good, even on its own. It's just kind of interesting, and at least it stands out a little from other stuff, because most of the war films I watched have just like the generic love thing where he goes to war and um the girl misses him and then they get married at the end and stuff like that. It was interesting, but sometimes it clashed a little, like I said. Mm,
Well, especially the whole argument over, you know, why have you not born me an heir yet? Got to be a
yeah.
bit much at sometimes.
Yeah, I feel like that was just too overused in the film, because if we talk about which like actual important events were featured in the film, only like 50% of major stuff that happened during the period was mentioned there. And if they uh, cut out on that part a little, they could either just put in more of the love story, but just on different parts, or they could actually include some more important events, like maybe, for example, Leipzig or something like that, because there are a
It
lot of
honestly,
time jumps.
what I got from the love story of this film was that I want an independent film from the perspective of Josephine.
Mm-hmm.
Like a Josephine centric film where like Napoleon is the ancillary character because he's like always gone on campaign and stuff.
Yeah.
So for me, I that's what it made me think. I was like, man, I really want a movie just about her story.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's exactly what I said. That it just works good even on its own. Because if you were to separate all the love story parts and all the battle parts and put them together separately, it would still make sense. And it was just kind of cutting between those two. And, well, it's just not that much for me. But as like an objective perspective on it, I think it works good for the majority of the time. But I like to see it being more consistent with it. Also, I came to see the battles, because that's the stuff like that I enjoy.
I think, I think that's what a lot of people go for because like I think people went to this film expecting, you know, a Waterloo basically. Um I appreciate that they did do different battles though. Like especially the first battle where where he raids the fort and, attacks the British fleet. I was like,
Hmm.
that's an amazing scene for me.
Yeah.
It's also one of those scenes that again, highlights, like, it's very graphic, but it doesn't overdo it. Because, like, there are times in this film where there will be a moment where I'll be like, oh shit. Like, and that scene is one of them because he has a horse shot out from underneath him, but it's shot out from underneath him with like a cannonball. So, like, you just see this horse explode. Um, and yet, despite it being a horse exploding, it didn't feel over the top. It just felt like it was it was demonstrating the awfulness of war, really.
Yeah, like for me, it was probably the best battle there that the film featured. It was a super good start to it because it was all quiet, and then it exploded when they started to raid the Toulon city, and I enjoyed that sequence quite a lot. Like I said, a good start to the film, and I wanted to. Well, I forgot my previous point, so I think we can continue.
What I think the only point in this film that I was like, okay, this is a bit much, was the very beginning when they go to put Marie Antoinette into the guillotine. And I'm like, okay, cool. French Revolution. This is where our start point. Great place to start, I think. And usually in films, they'll cut away or they'll pan to the audience when the actual moment of death
Yeah,
occurs. Like you just get like you just hear it happening and you see people's reactions, or you see like kind of like a just a different angle, so you're not seeing it directly, but you get the point that it's happening. But no, this film was like, no, you're going to see someone's head come off. And I was like, okay, guillotine scene is a bit much. All the violence in the battles, I'm like, okay, this makes sense. This is meant to shock and awe, but the guillotine was a bit much for me.
well, you're right. It was, compared to the rest of the film, it was kind of graphic. But as a counterpoint, I would say it's actually good for it to be at least a little shocking. Maybe not too much over the top, but it kind of illustrates the how brutal the French Revolution actually was. Because it's kind of undershined how many people died there, and it was so brutal, even compared to the Napoleonic Wars. But yeah, you're right, it was probably too much. But for me, it actually hooked me quite a bit on the start.
Did
That
it
when I
did it
saw
get
it,
you to be like, I'm invested in the film now?
yeah.
Okay. I also really liked the politics scenes, because again, I
Yeah.
think that's something that is kind of overlooked when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
Napoleon. Is like I said, I think a lot of people went into this film expecting a Waterloo type film, but actually seeing the politics of, like, Robespierre like yelling at people in a hall, or just the politics of even like Napoleon being like, was your youngest daughter available to be married?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not something that gets touched on a lot, I think.
Yeah, I really enjoyed those scenes because, first of all, I'm really glad they included the coup. What was it, Brumer? Some Brumer. The one day where they throw over the government like Napoleon, and he
Right.
becomes the first consul. Uh, that was a really good scene, and I'm so glad they actually included it because it's super cool. And even the scenes where the emperors and kings just talked to each other. Also, the one at the end with Wellington and Napoleon talking with each other. That was super cool. It's kind of good to see the contrast between the battle happening and just everyone dying, and then it jumps to them just sitting around and talking with each other with a glass of wine.
I think, you mentioned like it was a great just not seeing everybody dying. I also love the coup scene just from like there are glimmers of when Joaquin Phoenix like delivers a line very well where you're like, why aren't you doing this with the rest of the film? Because, we mentioned him confronting Josephine over cheating. It's a great scene because they're actually acting to their full abilities. I like the coup scene also because, he gets run out of the chamber, gets his soldiers, comes back, and he just, like, very smugly, like, delivers the line, like, now shall we take a vote?
Mm-hmm.
And it's hilarious. Um, and another scene that hit me like that is when they march into Moscow and they find the city is deserted and they go into the, like, palace throne room of the Tsar, and he, like, just sits down on the throne and he's like, well, this isn't very sporting. And again, it made me burst out laughing. And it's kind of a shame because it's like, you have the ability to do this for the rest of the film, but you're not.
Yeah. Well, that was first of all that was a super good scene where they entered Moscow. Even the whole sequence was really well put together, and him just sitting on the throne and being mad as hell on them, no one being there. His acting was so good in that scene. Like you said, it's kind of a shame he didn't do similar stuff for the rest of the movie. And also just as a historical perspective, with the coup, where he just ran out because he was alone and then he came in with the military, it's kind of good in terms of illustrating that you're actually like nothing without your army and the people. Because if he's just him, he's just completely without any power or just and then he just came in with the military and it changed everything. It's kind of good on illustrating that.
Right. I loved just the whole Russia story arc, anyways, because I thought it was light on dialogue for the Russia story arc, and it relied very heavily on the visuals. And it's one of those things that it's like, when you take a history class, whether it's learning about, like, Napoleon invading Russia or Germany invading Russia during World War II, like, the common theme that everybody's like, you go on to Reddit and it's like, you never invade Russia during the winter, and it's like this old and tired line that, like, everybody says and knows because Russia has not lost during the winter. But this film actually, like, puts a good visual effect on how harsh and extreme, like, the Russian winter is. And, like, this is the first time, like I've always known that, like, that's a major reason why armies fail, is because they fail to properly prepare for that part of the world if they invade it. But, like, this film actually shows, like, no, this isn't just like it's snowy and cold. Like, no,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes like an uninhabitable wasteland, basically. So I really appreciate what the film did with that, because it actually, like, contextualized that line that everybody's heard.
Yeah. Well, if you're maybe, for example, learning history, you just usually see the numbers in of how many people perished there, stuff like that. And this is exactly what war films should do, and that's to illustrate how it actually was. And in this moment, that really worked. And first of all, the lack of dialogue is actually good there because it gets you more into the perspective of the Russian winner, and it just gets you more into the entire theme of it being cold as hell and everyone starving. Also, the inclusion of Cossacks. I'm glad they put them in there because sometimes they're kind of not talked about much, but they did like most of the damage on the French army, except of course for the winter and famine and other stuff. And it's just not only about uh, the environment, but it's also about the will of the people, because like most of the Russian people just went in to cause havoc on the French army, which is the main thing that caused them to perish there. like 90% of them or something died there. And yeah, that was super well put together. And that's the thing I disliked about the movie, that war films should kind of communicate to the person what it actually looked like. For example, here with the Russian scene. But the battles being inaccurate and stuff like that just gives you a bad perspective on the whole era if you're someone who doesn't know anything about it. And then you just think the battles look like everyone charging together. And also it makes sometimes Napoleon look like a bit of a dumbass, because the tactics he's employing is just, now we're gonna hide here and now we all run out together and kill everyone, and now I'm the best in the world. And I was like, I could do that as well if it was like this. But he was actually a genius with his battles, and it's not featured much in the film, which is a shame.
It's definitely, I think, like a good comparison to that is, did you ever play like Total War Empire?
Yeah. I played Napoleon, but that's
Okay.
kind of similar.
So like with Total War, it's the same thing, because I think that playing a game like that gives you an appreciation that, like, no, you actually do need some tactics.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, if you play a game like Total War, which is Napoleonic style warfare, or at least a couple of the games are Napoleonic style warfare, if you just send all of your troops charging, like, you will lose every battle every time. Like,
Exactly.
you actually have to deploy them correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is something that this film does do a disservice to Napoleon on. Like,
Yeah. Well, it's actually quite the case
Napoleon
even with...
made some
Yeah.
massive mistakes, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
in his life and on the battlefield. But he also inspired, probably for the better part of 100 years, how every other general
Yeah.
would fight their wars.
I mean, he changed the tactics, and also he was actually spreading the revolutionary ideas. He established like a lot of republics, which I think also inspired countries to do revolutions years after that. Maybe for example, what is it, 1864, the revolution in Austria, and it was somewhere else, I think, as well. And I think that was also inspired by this, because France was one of the first countries, except, of course, England, to have a republic. And them just spreading the revolutionary ideas all around Europe. Warsaw was a republic, and Netherlands, and also he kind of made Germany at least a little united, because he had the Confederation of Rhine. And him just spreading this revolutionary stuff, I think, also led everything to where we are now, where just being a republic is the standard.
Right. No,
So he
like,
shouldn't be portrayed that much as a bad guy. Of course, he caused like millions of deaths, and he did bad stuff.
well, that's
But
the thing, is like, he is, he essentially, he named himself emperor, so he was a dictator to a degree. But you are correct. Like, a lot of our modern world is shaped by his actions, which is why he has a big fancy tomb in Paris now. Like, the French obviously liked him if they saw fit to, go down to St. Helena and retrieve his body. So,
yeah, well, if you compare it to other dictators from around the world, people just usually like Napoleon, how he was. If you take, for example, I don't know, dictators from China or Russia, like the Soviet Union, people usually hate them. But Napoleon is quite different in this, because a lot of people just like him. He has such a big fan base even now. So many little kids are just inspired by Napoleon all the time.
it's probably the hat. I think it's the hat that did it. He had a really cool hat. But do you have any kind of last thoughts about the film?
Oh, what do I say? Yeah, one thing I wanted to say earlier is that I think just maybe changing the name of the film a little would do better, because it was a lot about the expectations that we had. Because I came in to see a war movie in the style of Waterloo, and it was more about the romance and stuff like that. I didn't even know it's gonna be such a big part of the movie. And maybe if they just change it to I don't know, maybe Napoleon or Napoleon and Josephine or something like that, I would go in with a bit different expectations, and I would probably be a lot more satisfied with the film.
If they just changed the title to just Josephine and then like ramped up the like artsy nature of it by 100%, this could have won some Oscars, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
But so right about this time of show, we like to review or give a rating to the film. We don't do stars because stars are boring. We usually pick some random thing that stuck out to us in the film. I, for one, think we should do 1 to 5 exploding horses.
Well, if we counted the amount of horses in the film, we would probably have like 16 out of 5, because it was all the time in the film. But it was so cool. But yeah. What would you give the film first?
I think I would give this. This is the thing, is that like we constantly have this back and forth over how much historical accuracy should impact the rating of a film. And I think it is heavily dependent on how this film sells itself. This film sells itself as being a historically accurate film, which according to you it isn't really.
Yeah,
So
definitely not.
that takes it down a notch. Like I said, I thought this film was beautifully shot. It approached things differently than I was expecting it to, which I enjoyed. But Joaquin Phoenix, a lot of the time, kind of fell short for me, which is hilarious because everybody likes making Napoleon short jokes. So despite me liking it, I would say this is a 3 exploding horse film.
Yeah, I would probably agree. If I had to rate it on terms of my like subjective experience with the film, and me being upset because it was just super inaccurate and everything about that, I would probably rate it like a 2. But from a perspective of just an average person who isn't interested in this period, I would give it probably a 3 or 3.5, something like that.
Okay.
3.5 of an exploding horse.
Half an exploding horse. Which half remains, the front half or the back half?
Well, the legs. Just the legs.
Oh, okay. So I got Rotten Tomatoes pulled up because we like to compare our rating to them. And both the critic rating and the popcorn meter show it as a 58%. So we're not too terribly far off on that.
Yep. I'm just gonna for a second first look at our like Czech movie website, and it has 65%.
So
there.
what do you guys what's your Czech movie website? Because I really want to use this the next time we do a movie. Like I want to review what the Czechs think.
It's in Czech it's ČSFD, but it's written as CSFD. CZ.
Okay.
I can also send you the link if you want to.
CSFD movie review. That is in a whole lot of words I can't read.
Well, I can send you the link for it.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it has an English version.
Yeah, I got.
Doesn't seem like it.
Google translated it for me.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Okay.
So Okay. This is definitely this is going to be a tool in the future.
Yeah, it's good. I agree with most of the ratings there.
But that has been Napoleon. Human, if you'd like to share Duckoleon, any kind of social media pages you got,
Yep.
the Discord, whatever, the floor is yours.
Well, the main thing you can do is probably wishlist it on Steam, which helps me probably the most. So if you just search up Duckoleon, it should come up. And if you put it in your wishlist, you'll get notified when it comes out. And also it helps me push the game a little bit more. And there you can also find a link for our Discord if you scroll down. And if you join our Discord, you can sometimes vote on stuff we put in the game. You can put in your suggestions for what we should add. And I try to read most of them, like doing my best. So if you want to contribute to the game in any way, you should join the Discord. I would appreciate it a lot.
Can there be a Josephine duck skin?
Well, we don't have skins, but
Okay.
we just only have like pre-made uniforms for the different regiments.
That's
But
fair.
maybe if I actually decide to do skins for the ducks, which has been requested before, I could probably do it. But I have no idea how she would look like.
I think you just do like a duck, but with like a giant tall hairdo.
So she should just have a wig
Yeah, like
on
a
her and
wig and
be
like some lipstick. That can be the Josephine duck.
That would go so hard.
How much
Well, I
are
can do that.
out out of curiosity, how much are you looking at the game costing when it's released?
What we settled on is €9, which is also $9. I think Steam converts it like 1-to-1, $9. But what I like to do with my games is to put in a lot of sales often. So even when the game launches, there should be like a 50 to 60% discount on it. And then on every summer sale, winter sale, there should be more discounts on the way.
You know what? Here's what I'll do, because I believe in your project so much, and I think it's a hilarious game concept.
Thank you.
The first when this episode comes out, the first 3 people to comment quack on our Instagram post for this episode, I will Steam gift them a copy of this game.
All right, that sounds good.
It,
That's super kind of you, man. that hopefully people notice. Hopefully they made it out to the end of this episode. I was probably kind of annoying, I would say.
I mean, I'm sure there's quite a few people from the Duckoleon server who's going to want to have
Mm-hmm.
a listen to this, so
I'm gonna definitely share there for the people to watch. I enjoyed it as well, a lot.
um Human, thank you so much for joining us. If the listeners at home enjoyed this episode, please go look up Duckoleon on Steam. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave a review. The stars do matter. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all those good places under Armchair Commanders Podcast. Until next time, I've been John, and again, thank you so much for joining us, Puman.
Yeah, thank you too for me having you here. You having me here. Oh my god, I can't talk. It was super amazing, and also a unique experience for me. And also, you gained a new viewer slash
Well,
listener.
thank you. And just so you know, Puman, don't worry too much. Your English is 100% better than my Czech, so you have
Thank you.
nothing to worry about.
Yeah, I'm doing my best. I only started talking in English like a month ago, maybe. Like seriously talking in English. So
I got like Duolingo for my phone like a year and a half ago, and I still can't. Like I tried doing German on it, and I learned that German's a very hard language. So
definitely is.
But
Mm-hmm.
but again, thank you so much for joining us, and
My
hopefully
pleasure.
we can have you again sometime whenever you create your next great duck-themed war game. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you too, and see you. Bye bye.